Hello and welcome back to UCL Review, where we round up the biggest talking points from the best sporting competition in the world. Joining me today, we've got Chelsea and Football Daily's finest, Zac Jalab, who I'm sure is in a jubilant mood. Zachary, you're back in the Champions League final for the first time since 2012. You must be delighted.
Oh my God, I'm over the moon, Dougie. What a way. I'm so sorry if I just broke your eardrums watching this. That was torture, honestly. It was like the Atletico Madrid game all over again. Chelsea being like one goal away from being fine, but also one goal conceding to it all going tits up. And I'm so happy. But you're right, Chelsea sealed their return to the Champions League final for the first time since 2012 by beating Real Madrid 2-0 at Stamford Bridge thanks to goals from Werner and Mason Mount. I mean, it should have probably been about 5. The Blues have now got an FA Cup final to look forward to against Leicester City on the 15th of May and a Champions League final just 8 days later, much like 2012. There has been some very weird similarities. We beat a Portuguese team. We then beat a Spanish team. Look into it. Anyway, the big team news, though, from Chelsea perspective, was that Thomas Tuchel decided to go with Kai Havertz up front, who had scored 3 goals in his last 6 games, including 2 at the weekend against low side Fulham, over the guy who's kind of the man of the match in the first leg, Christian Pulisic. For Real, though, Zinedine Zidane could bring in Sergio Ramos, Ferland Mendy and Eden Hazard for the injured duo of Varane and Carvajal and also Marcelo. Interestingly, though, he stuck with a 5-3-2 formation that Real Madrid had largely struggled with in the first leg, with Vinicius Junior playing at right wing back. And my God, I felt for him. I actually think he's very talented forward, but he cannot defend to save his life.
It's not his role.
Exactly. And it was a fairly even start. In fact, the first 15 minutes I actually thought Real Madrid probably edged it. On the 17th minute, Timo Werner, though, did score a goal. However, he was offside when Ben Chilwell played the ball across. I mean, how he didn't stay onside, I don't know. It just made me even more nervous. On the 26th minute mark, Mendy made a great save from Karim Benzema, who took it on the turn. And you know what? If there's one player who could hold his hand up and tried his best in this whole game, both legs, it was Karim Benzema. He was brilliant on both games. And he also had a good chance at the end that Mendy saved as well. A minute later, though, the 27th minute, Chelsea had the lead. A great play from Kante in midfield, who took a touch. He does this a lot, where it looks like his touch is actually a bit too far from him. He gets there every time. Passed it into Timo Werner. Timo Werner, with some, to be fair to him, he's not the biggest guy. Some strong hold-up play, pulling down. Sergio Ramos falling down from his play. Back to Kante, who got it through to Kai Havertz, who tried to dink the 6'7" Thibaut Courtois, hitting the crossbar, and there was Timo Werner to head it in. And wow, his 12th goal of the season in all competitions. Now, for someone that gets a lot of criticism, he's now been involved in 22 goals this season, with 12 goals and 10 assists, more than any other Chelsea player. And the last Blues player to do so was Eden Hazard back in 2018-19. At half-time, the score had it at 1.4, XG I should say, 1.4 to 0.4 in Chelsea's favour, and that shows you how good Chelsea's defence has been in both legs, if we're being quite honest. Chelsea came out strong as well in the second half, Kai Havertz hitting the crossbar again from a brilliant ball from Azpilicueta on the right wing. After 58 minutes, Courtois made an exceptional save, 1-on-1 with Havertz. This is what I said earlier, he could have got a hat-trick. The same then happened as well 7 minutes later, but this was a Valverde block, an unreal Valverde block as well, we should say. And after 84 minutes, Chelsea finally got their second goal to secure their Champions League final in Istanbul, when Kante tackled Nacho and managed to get the ball over to Pulisic on the right wing, who ran down that wing, and I thought the chance had gone when he'd stopped, but he managed to pick out Mason Mount in the middle of the box, who tucked it home. Really good play from Christian Pulisic, who was a brilliant impact sub. And his impact sub performances are so good that I actually think it hinders him sometimes as to why he doesn't start. But maybe we shouldn't be too surprised about the result. Chelsea are now unbeaten against Real Madrid in 5 appearances, winning 3 and drawing 2, and have progressed from 7 out of the 9 ties after winning the first leg away from home. Now, this continues Thomas Tuchel's phenomenal unbelievable record as well. He's only lost 4 of his last 19 home games as manager in the Champions League, winning 13 and drawing 2. With his side scoring 50 goals across those fixtures, an average of 2.6 per game. And when I say this could have been 5-0 or 4-0, it really should have been.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Chelsea completely dominated, and it was a really disappointing display from Zinedine Zidane's side. Once again, I didn't get his tactical setup. There was very little threat, as you've already mentioned, aside from Karim Benzema, and much of their play was so ponderous. They were passing the ball backwards. They were keeping hold of the ball quite nicely, but Chelsea never really threatened too much, and it was a big disappointment for Zidane. He was aiming to progress from his 4th semi-final at his 4th time of reaching it. No manager has progressed from the semi-finals more often, which is level with Sir Alex Ferguson, Lippi and Ancelotti as well. And they were aiming, of course, for their 17th Champions League final, with their current total of 16, 5 more than next best AC Milan and Bayern Munich. They did have, as I said before, a lot of the ball. They had 68% of it, but they struggled to really create too much. They had 7 chances with 5 on target, but Mendy was... there was that amazing save in the first half from Benzema on the turn, but actually, I thought the save towards the end of the first half was fairly comfortable, even though it was a good stretch. But he is enormous and he's got the biggest arms in the world, Edouard Mendy. Whereas Chelsea had 15 opportunities, and if they had been more clinical, it could have been way more one-sided. To get a context of that, XG had it at 3.6 to 0.5 for Chelsea, complete and utter domination. And Zidane's big decision in terms of his selection was to start Eden Hazard, who hasn't obviously played a lot of football, well, since 2019, since he left Chelsea, really. And he didn't look anywhere near fit here. And also lacking quite a bit of confidence, I thought, really, which is understandable given his condition. He completed 2 dribbles but didn't create a single chance and only had 1 shot too. And Vinicius Junior as a right wing back wasn't a good move. He struggled massively against Ben Chilwell, who's enjoyed quite a bit of a renaissance recently under Thomas Tuchel. It was interesting that Marcus Alonso seemed to be Tuchel's man when he first took charge. Yeah. Ben Chilwell's come storming back. It was almost like it was a bit of a kick up the arse. And his form recently has been phenomenal. And Werner down that side as well was easily beating Vinicius Junior on occasions as well. For Chelsea, in terms of their key men, well, I've already mentioned Mendy, who is excellent. I thought Rudiger at the back was so solid, as he has been as well for the last few weeks as well. Christensen as well has developed into the sort of defender that I didn't think he would be capable of as well. Havertz, I thought, was phenomenal. 2 tackles, interceptions, 3 aerial duels, 3 dribbles, 1 key pass, and 4 shots as well. And Havertz, it's been so nice to see his sort of, after such a difficult start to the year, injury issues, COVID, idiots on football Twitter saying he wasn't good enough for this level. He's now performed consistently well for a month, and he was crucial in this display. Man of the match, though, I don't know whether you agree with this, Zach. I'm giving it to Ngolo Kante as well. 5 tackles and interceptions. Yeah. 2 aerial duels, 1 dribble, 3 key passes, 1 shot. And as we've already mentioned, it was his hard work in midfield that sort of led to both goals. Real, in terms of the rest of the season, well, they've only got 4 games left, and it looks like they're going to end up empty-handed because they've still got to play Sevilla, who are 4th at the moment, Granada, who are 8th, Athletic Club, and Villarreal in the run-in. They're obviously looking to overturn a 2-point deficit to Atletico Madrid at the top of La Liga. But on this basis, I think this is going to be a massive confidence hit, and they just don't look anywhere near their best recently. And it's understandable. They've had a lot of injury issues this year. They obviously were out without Varane for this one, without Carvajal, which would have made a big difference as well. But that 5 at the back system, I just don't think worked at all well across 2 legs. I think Zidane will be really, disappointed with us, pretty meek exit from this year's competition. Next up for Chelsea, well, it's only a bloody dress rehearsal for the final at the Etihad on Saturday at 5:30 p.m. I cannot wait to watch that now with the added spice, knowing that, in, what did we say, 23rd of May at the end of this month, is the big one in Istanbul. Although there is speculation that it won't actually take place in Istanbul because of the COVID situation over there and might be at Wembley, which would be a bit of a disappointment because, we already saw this in the FA Cup semi-final. I don't really want to see this game played at Wembley. Chelsea still have games against Arsenal, Leicester and Villa in the league. They're only 3 points clear of West Ham, but on this sort of form, I'm pretty sure they're going to seal the deal. But Zach, I wanted to ask you, there's a big topic on Twitter at the moment, post-game, about how much better the English clubs are than the rest of Europe right now. What do you think that's down to? Is it players, managers, money?
I think money probably has a big part to play in it. We have also attracted the best managers around the world right now. If you look at the Premier League, Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. Chelsea's got Thomas Tuchel. Manchester City have Pep Guardiola. And before we had Jose Mourinho, we had Maurizio Pochettino. And
Still got Ancelotti.
Ancelotti. I think I'm probably forgetting some others as well, but it's just off the top of my head. So I think that has that and the money aspect that like Chelsea and City and United. I mean, these clubs can afford to spend hundreds of millions every single summer, whereas other clubs, like we've seen with Real Madrid, how much and Barcelona, how much of they're in a financial crisis. I think there has been a massive power shift of these players, of clubs being able to buy these great players. Like the summers that are happening at the moment for some of the clubs in the Prem, what were happening for Real Madrid and Barcelona just maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, and that was when they were having their peak, And I think it's difficult because you look at the PSG team that played against Manchester City yesterday. If they had Kylian Mbappe, would have been a little bit different. The Bayern Munich team that faced PSG, if they'd had Lewandowski in that first leg, would have how that semi-final against City have been. However, that's knockout football, right? Sometimes in the Champions League, the best team doesn't actually get to the final, or even the semis at times. But there is a dominance of English football at the moment, and I also think as well, the Premier League has grown so much over the last 5 years. I think it's switched now from the young players and the players that are coming through, and the really, really good players, the best players in the world, aren't really looking at, say, Real Madrid and Barcelona as the places they want to spend their careers or have their prime. They want to come to the Premier League, whether that's at United, whether that's at Manchester City, whether that's at Chelsea. They've seen how competitive it is. They've seen the wages that we can offer here as well, and just the players that you can play with. I mean, some of the talent that are in this squad. The final right now, again, in Istanbul and on the weekend, is probably in the Premier League against the two clubs with the best depth in squads in the Premier League, maybe even in the world as well at times. Like the squads that we see face each other on the weekend could be a completely different squad that we see in the final. So I think that's probably got to do with it. I think it's mainly the money side, but also just the dominance of the Premier League and how much exposure it's had internationally.
Absolutely. I think it's the competitiveness of the league as well, which makes all the top players and the top managers want to come and work here. And it helps, that Chelsea, the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, they have 6 massive games per season, maybe a couple more if you count Sevilla and Villarreal, whereas it's a dogfight every year to get into the top 4 in England. But we don't mean to be too smug as well. We obviously take into account the money that we've spent as well. Obviously in 2019 as well, we had 4 finalists in the Champions League and Europa League. The following year in 2020, we didn't do that well. And we've seen Man City being one of the best sides, at least in our opinion, in Europe over the last few years. And this is their first Champions League final. This is the first time they've even reached the semi-final. So it goes in waves, and we'll see how tomorrow night goes in the Europa League as well. Maybe Villarreal can have a punchback for La Liga on Arsenal, who aren't a particularly good side this year, or at least not a particularly consistent side. So we'll see what goes on. But massive credit. Mainly this night is about Thomas Tuchel, and mainly this is about Chelsea. I mean, what a turnaround in the space of 4 months. He's played Simeone, Guardiola, Zidane, Ancelotti, Bielsa, Klopp. It goes on. And I don't think he's conceded a single goal against any of them. Jose, and it just goes on. The only manager who's had it over him is Sam Allardyce, who continues to, create new myths and new records every single year. So credit to Thomas Tuchel, credit to this young squad as well, which has been blended together so excellently as well. And credit to some of the players that were left out under Frank Lampard as well. Your Azpilicuetas, your Jorginhos as well. Rudiger's come back in from the cold as well. So massive team effort from Chelsea, and we'll see what goes on May the 23rd against Man City, hopefully in Istanbul. But guys, that's all we've got time for on UCL Review for this week. Thank you so much for watching again. Zach, if they've enjoyed this rather, what should they go and watch now?
Well, why don't you click on screen right now for some more Euro Football Daily content, or the top 10s that we offer, or the Euro transfer talks, where we update you on all the juicy gossip from around the world. I might go and cry, Dougie, mate.
You need to get on the beers.
It's rough. If I'm not in Istanbul, if I'm not at this final come the 18th, I will cry. I'm going to be there. That's a Zach Jella promise.
Although you were a bit of a curse, weren't you? Sorry, before when Chelsea played Roma.
Yeah, I mean, the one game, the two. I've never seen Chelsea win the. Maybe I shouldn't go.
Yeah, I think you stay at home, Zach. You stay at home and drink your beers in your living room.
Oh no! Oh no! Don't forget to like and subscribe.